Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gamers of a Lost Spark podcast. This is episode 10 and we're recording this on the 15th of July 2015. I'm Anthony Chesson and joining me as always is the other spark on the pod is Mr. Darren Whittam. Say hello, sir.
Hello, hi Anthony, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad. How are you? How's your week been?
My week, it's been okay. Well, I had a bit of misfortune with my car dying, which is a bit of a pain.
Oh no!
Yeah, I know. It's really bad because I was planning on getting a second car to take my little one to school. So we've got sort of two cars so that we can, get to work and take the little one to school a lot easier. So that was always on the cards. So it was getting to September and it was sort of thinking, right, well, we'll best start looking. And in light of looking for the second car, the first car died a death. So it was like, oh, crikey, we've got to get two cars now. So that was a good part of my week spent looking for two cars. So we've got them now. We bought them on Monday evening.
Yeah.
So we're now a two car family.
Wow, get you.
Yeah, I know. Wow.
So, are you happy? Have you got both of them now? They've both been delivered. Are they at home?
Yeah, they're at home. And they're just there waiting to be used. And
right.
I'm not that into cars, so I wasn't excited. I can see the thrill that some people get. But for me, I was saying to my wife, I was like, I'd much rather. I wish I was getting a PC or a projector or a new console. It just does my head in because it's loads of money, and I'm not that into cars. But having said that, after finding the car that I've got, which is a Mazda RX-8, is the one I've got. I can see the attraction as it's quite exhilarating to drive it. I've never driven anything so nippy in my life, crikey. So I'm going to have to relearn to drive. To drive the thing. On the test drive, the guy was sort of in my ear saying, floor it, and I was like, I was petrified. He was like, he goes, the way you drive this is you've got to keep the revs up all the time. I don't mind on a game. It's not real life, is it? He goes, you've got to keep the revs up all the time. He goes, wait till it gets to 6,000, 7,000 revs before you change gear and all this. And I was like, I'm not really used to driving like that, but I'll give it a go. And he was like, no, you're doing it. So I just changed normally. I just changed it at 2,000 revs, into second or whatever, trying to keep it all smooth. And he went, nah, mate, you're doing it wrong. He goes, right, I'll tell you what to do. And he said, right, once these lights change, he goes, just floor it in first and don't change it till I tell you. And so I did what he said. And he just waited. It just felt like an eternity before he said change. And I was like, it was like bloody Russian roulette or something. So then I changed. And he was like, right, don't do anything, hold it in second, you're supposed to hold it in second and all this. And I was just like, flipping it, mate. And he's like, look at the revs. I goes, I can't look at the revs, I've got to look at the cars that are flying towards me.
Oh my God, he gave you a lesson in boy racing, didn't he, really?
He did. I said to him, I'm not a boy. I said, this is completely alien to me. I said, I'm not a boy racer, mate. So I'm not used to
you up and down Blackpool Pier, is that what you were doing? You were there banging tunes with your arm out the window.
Tell you what, mate, it felt like I was at the top of the big one flying down. Wow. So yeah, that was really weird because I sort of was taking the experienced car dealer guy, taking his word for it, and I was thinking, bloody, I felt like Trinity and Matrix Reloaded going the wrong way up the highway. I felt like I was in that chase scene, but So once I'd got the car, I realised that I liked it, and I realised that it could be quite exhilarating driving a vehicle like that because I've never driven anything so fast as I said. And now I've got it home and I drive myself. I'm sort of happier that I can drive it the way I want it. But yeah, so my wife just got a Toyota Yaris, so we've got those now. So we've got a little runabout for economical purposes, and we've got the family car is a bit of a sporty number. So we'll see how we do with that.
And you got a family car for when you want to go back in time.
Yeah.
But that was, a bit of kind of nerd culture there. That was the Mazda RX-8 was actually Wolverine's car in X-Men, in the first X-Men. Well, it actually wasn't Wolverine's, it was Cyclops, but Wolverine stole it. There you go. That shows how nerdy I am.
Wow. You see, I've never had a car before that turned up in a film.
See, there you go.
So
You've got to grow big chops now and kind of get the claws that pop out.
I have. I'm going to get some overalls and hang around outside like Joey in Friends when he stands around that Porsche, and I'm going to sort of wax it and stuff and have the bonnet. I had the bonnet open the other day because I was looking at the engine. I ain't got a clue about the engine, but I was trying to find the dipstick, which took me about half an hour. But
the dipstick was looking for the dipstick.
The dipstick was looking for the dipstick. I think I styled it out as far as the passers-by were concerned. But yeah, nice. I've had congratulations from my neighbours. They walked past and they were, wow, look at that. And I was like, yeah, and they sort of went, is it yours? And I was like, yeah. They're like, well done, mate, that's amazing, and like saying this stuff. So yeah, it's pretty good. I've read online about it. It's got a different sort of engine than a normal car, so it takes a bit of looking after, but we will see what happens. But yeah, it's not Top Gear, is it? So I'll shut up about it. But that was a big part of my week, having to do that. What else did I do? I watched the podcast Unlocked episode 201 that you mentioned last week with Ryan McCaffrey.
What did you think?
I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic seeing Phil Spencer, Peter Moore, and Seamus Blackley just sat there in the panel like that, and just so willing to chat and give candour about their experiences. I just thought it was just so interesting and thrilling to watch it. It was great. It really made me a little bit like E3. You know, I sort of felt just excited to be privy to it, and it's so great that that's there recorded on YouTube and what have you for anybody to watch. I thought having the three sort of fathers, if you like, of Xbox from past, present and future, well, that doesn't make sense actually. Sort of past.
No, it's kind of past, and present.
past, and now, past, and present. I thought it was great, and the way that they sort of like, you could tell they'd gone through experiences together and stuff, and they had some in-jokes and that. I just thought it was really interesting to watch. When Peter Moore was talking about the Red Ring of Death fiasco on Xbox 360, I thought that was really interesting. And apart from the fact that, yeah, it was a calamity and annoyed a lot of gamers, including me, I got the Red Ring of Death on, I think, maybe 2 of my 360s. The one that I remember the most was Gears of War 1. That was when it happened. And I was so annoyed. I think I just went out and bought another one because I couldn't wait to play Gears, because it was like 2 weeks to do that that swap over. But I remembered it, and the fact that they were talking about that it was to do with the heat, and I could imagine that Gears was probably the game that pushed the GPU the most at that time. That was the game that they were all focused on about winning the Xbox 360 in terms of looks and what have you. And that's what sort of fried mine. So I think it was just that heat build up, because mine was like a day one Xbox 360, and it was Gears that pushed it over the edge. And I thought it was great how he talked about going into that meeting with Steve Ballmer, and that he was saying prayers before he went in, and that basically when he told him and explained the situation, I think it was $1.5 billion.
Yeah, it was. It was that, just to, and to say that to I mean, he's a scary guy anyway.
He is a scary guy.
When you're saying hello to him, he would be a scary guy. But actually going, face to face, saying we need that, that was quite.
Yeah, there's been a mistake, sort of thing, and it's going to cost us this. And he said that he was so sort of nervous before going in. But the fact that Steve Ballmer saw it for what it was, and there was no question about trying to wriggle out of it from a consumer perspective. He was just like, yeah, well, it has to be done, and I just thought it was a great story. And even though the Red Ring of Death was a travesty and annoyed everybody that got it, I thought the backing that Microsoft gave there, and it was a bit like he said, that could have made or broken the brand, and they sort of put up, didn't they? And they did that massive. It was like 300. It was like, I don't know, 300 million just for DHL, I think it was, or something like that. And they did it, and Steve was behind them, and it just showed that Microsoft backed the Xbox, and they were saying that, it's when you try and wriggle out of things that the likes of Steve and Bill will come down on you, but if you tell them the truth, they'll be supportive. And supportive's one thing, but that amount of money is amazing. And I just really enjoyed it. I did think that the things that they do like that when it's not E3, you're always seeing these guys, maybe not so much Seamus, but Xbox is a brand that's very visible, and it just made me think that Xbox is probably sort of a very visible and almost like your gaming family, your next door neighbour, from a PR point of view. Phil Spencer often tweets on Twitter and that, and they just seem very visible from a PR point of view, and it made me think that maybe Sony and Nintendo aren't so much. They don't feel so current and there on the pulse all the time. What do you think about that?
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, we was talking last week, weren't we, when I was saying about kind of at E3, Xbox was, they were feeding the fans that were queuing. They appreciate those kind of day one fans. They appreciate those people that want to be there, and they were going up and down the line. Phil Spencer, Aaron Greenberg, Major Nelson were all there, giving these people coffee, pizza, and just having fun and just talking to them and just going there and talking to them, and Sony have people that are like that, but they're not as hands-on. I mean, I said last week or the week before, I've got a deep respect and love for Shuhei Yoshida because he's just like a fun character, but you don't really see him. You see him kind of doing Hot Pepper Gaming and the Game Over Greggy show. You see him doing those things, but he's never really kind of in there with the fans. He's on Twitter, but he's not that kind of connected to the everyday person. But it's just really interesting. I've always felt like that with Microsoft. I've always felt that they go that extra mile when it comes. I mean, like the Major Nelson podcast, it happens almost every week now, and if it's not, they are they're very apologetic about it. They're always trying to do some other stuff if it doesn't happen, and I know PlayStation have their own podcast, but it doesn't seem as, as you said, as next door neighboury, as family, as Microsoft does.
Yeah, I think that they've sort of aced it there because it does feel like that. It feels like they've connected with that common touch of the gamer, I think, and that they've done very well with Larry, Major Nelson, and with Phil Spencer now as well. I think it's a bit of a dynamic duo, but it always has felt like that. They have felt a little bit more that their door's more open than either of the other two, I feel, and that can't be a good thing. I mean, it can't be a good thing. It can't be a bad thing. It can't be a bad thing. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. It was a shame I hadn't had a chance to watch it last week, but I took the time, and it was an hour and a half well spent. And I think it's worth probably dropping a link at the bottom of this week's podcast to it as well, because it's just any gamer that's young or old, new or seasoned, you can't help but if you're into the pastime, if you appreciate gaming and where it's come from and the roots and where it's going and what it's done, there's some great information there, some great anecdotes, and just seeing these powerful businessmen all in the room together, like you said, it's really good.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't matter even if you're just in the PlayStation camp, if you're, just a PlayStation fan rather than a Microsoft fan or a Nintendo. It's just worth watching it because I think Ryan McCaffrey kind of handles them all quite well, asks the right questions, and this is kind of what I was talking about before, and why I loved it, because he did kind of almost ask those questions that we wanted to ask, and I know that I wanted to ask, and he got some great stories from it as well. I mean, that Red Ring of Death and the whole kind of 1.5 billion, nobody knew that. That was kind of like a brand new, they'd never really spoken about that before, so it was really good, and like I say, I've watched it and I've listened to it, and I just think it is a really good interview.
I think it is for sure, and Ryan, he got them chatting, didn't he? And the rapport between them towards the sort of the last half, Ryan could sit back and they were just going through it themselves, weren't they? Just chatting, and because of the evolution of the way that they were chatting, they were sort of helping him out quite a lot, weren't they? And Ryan was just thinking, this is fantastic, and he said himself, didn't he? He was like, that's the best podcast we're ever going to do, and I don't think there couldn't be many things in games that could be better than that. It was just so good and so friendly and so articulately well done. It was just classic. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What else did I do? Oh yeah, that was the other thing. I didn't know about Peter Moore's Halo 2 tattoo. So when I saw that, I was just like, classic. What commitment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he it was so funny when he kind of walked on stage with those kind of air quotes tattoos. It was just fantastic. I like and that was like, come on, we got to do this, and he knew how important Halo was to the franchise, and he knew they had to get it there on that date. So he would have looked a little bit of an idiot if they didn't have it on that date.
And he is.
and he is just as he's a nice guy. He looks like he could be a ton of fun, but he's also kind of got that little scary edge to him as well. I wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of Peter Moore or Phil Spencer for that point. I think they are those people that are kind of really lovely, but you wouldn't want to disappoint them. I think is the kind of way I want to put it. Not like they would be horrible, but you just wouldn't want to disappoint them.
You would not. You would never want to. You'd never want to drop the ball with them, would you? And you can imagine, these guys. These are powerful guys that you wouldn't want to sort of cross or sort of drop the ball for. But imagine you've got these guys quaking in the boots when they're up against Steve Ballmer, and you're like, crikey. That would be so scary.
Absolutely. But we did, on our website, on gamersoflostspark.com, we did actually catch up with Ryan McCaffrey, and we had a little kind of email interview with him that we've posted up on the site, where he does give a few kind of tidbits about the kind of what happened behind the scenes of that podcast. So it's kind of worthwhile checking out Gamers of Lost Spark. You'll see it there. It's still on the main page. It's a great interview with Ryan, not only talking about that, but also talking about his new t-shirt range as well, Nerd Styles. So that's kind of well worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely. And it was really kind of him to take the time to do that, because we're, as being a fledgling podcast, as we are. So, yeah, thanks a lot for that, Ryan. And, yeah, people, if you're listening, you should really have a read of that. It's really insightful and a great point of view from the interviewer, instead of just going straight into, the actual interviewees. So we talk about how he felt, with these big characters in the room, and he goes into that, and his t-shirts, as you say, Anthony, and it is really interesting. So well worth the read if you get a bit fed up of just listening. So there it is. I also had a go on Periscope. I've been using it a little bit more. I was having a browse around, and there was SDCC going on at the weekend, wasn't there? Which is San Diego Comic Con, and I'd actually, it slipped my mind really, and I was just browsing around on Periscope, and I hit San Diego, and there it was. There was a guy walking around Comic Con, loads of cosplayers around. I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. Then I got bored of that one because there wasn't really anything worth looking at. So I picked another guy, and he was in a big conference hall just as Bill Murray came out. So yeah, Bill Murray walked in and gave his chat about his latest film, which the name of escapes me. But he was promoting his latest film, I think, that he'd been working on, and he was just really funny. And I think, am I right? It's quite rare that Bill Murray makes an appearance, isn't it? I felt
think
privileged.
So. I think public appearance it is. I mean, he has been kind of appearing in the funniest of places. Bill Murray has actually been turning up in, like, there was a couple that were getting married, and then Bill Murray was there, and he was washing up. He just kind of turns up in some really strange places. He was at one point, I think he was selling hot dogs or something like that. He really is a character, and he does just kind of. But I don't think he does those kind of press junkets very often. So yeah, no, I think it was quite a big deal. He actually opened Comic-Con this year. That's what you were obviously watching.
Oh, well, that was the opening, was it? Wow.
It was indeed, yeah.
Wow, and I saw a news article about him afterwards signing some fan's head. And,
That's just so
and he
cool.
signed it Miley Cyrus, and you could see from the picture he'd written Miley Cyrus on this guy's forehead, but obviously the guy wouldn't have known for a little while. But he's just so dry. He's just the same,
Yeah.
As he was in sort of the glory days. I mean, the last film I saw him in was Saint Vincent, which I really enjoyed, actually. So yeah, that was really cool. And the only other thing that I did that I felt a bit sad about was I was using Periscope again. I was just doing a test for my friend because we were working out GPS because he was having a problem with it. So we were just doing some testing, working out, turning off and on settings and things. So I did a test, please ignore, and just had the iPad on my lap. And I was playing The Witcher at the time, which probably isn't that interesting. Well, maybe it is, Twitch exists and what have you. But anyway, so I said ignore, but people kept flooding in. And I was thinking, there's nothing to say here. But, I think if you want to get some viewers on Periscope, just say please ignore. And one of them came in. I started riding about on my horse on The Witcher. And I got a comment saying, oh no, a gamer. And another person saying, oh no, that sort of sigh. And I thought, why is that? Why is that? Because my opinion is, I'm nice. Gamers as a whole are nice. The gaming community is a friendly community and a nice, friendly affair. And I was thinking, have gamers got a reputation here? Have we got a reputation as being toxic because of the incidents with trolling and things like that, and death threats and what have you, and groups like Lizard Squad and stuff. And it sort of made me think, I thought it'd be, oh yeah, cool, a gamer. They'll know about technology and be friendly too. But it was sort of like, a gamer would best get out of here, and it just surprised me, really.
Did you ask them what they meant about that with that comment? Because you could just ask them you could switch the camera around to your face, couldn't you? And just kind of ask them, what do you mean, or did you just let it fly?
I just said, yeah, I am a gamer. Sort of, I was a bit shocked. I said, yeah, totally, I'm a gamer. Games are great. And sort of let that hang and didn't get a reply. They might have even left.
Wow, that's really bizarre that they would have that kind of, whether they just didn't want to, they were thinking, they've seen your previous posts of the sea, the shoreline, maybe they thought they were going to get some of that, so they were going to get some Brighton sunset, and instead, or Blackpool sunset, and instead they got kind of, Witcher sunset instead, so maybe it was that, but that's it's quite interesting, because, whenever I'm out and about, and you kind of say you're gaming, I'm never one to shy away from saying that it's my hobby, that's not even on my CV, I'm proud to be a nerd, a gamer, and I never kind of get that response, some people, they roll their eyes, or some people just kind of go, when you're going to grow up, but what they haven't realised is how games have they've got better, they've improved, they've changed, and it's no longer just a first person shoot 'em up. You have beautiful experiences like Journey, you have some amazing kind of set pieces, and I think some people appreciate that, but I think it's more the other way. If you don't appreciate that with gaming and nerd culture and pop being very popular at the moment, if you don't know your Mario from your Luigi, I think you're a bit weird. I think you're a bit weird. So we just all need to love each other.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I think, and I that's my sort of perception of what gamers are about. As especially these days, with it being so mainstream, I mean, the gaming industry is worth more than the music business and the movie business combined. It's massive, and games have been a driver for technology, and IT and all these other things, because the gamers demand it and they will pay to have these better experiences, which drives the hardware market, and there's other benefits to these markets being driven. So yeah, I mean, it's just an off-cuff comment.
Yeah, no, it's quite interesting, isn't it? And it's quite interesting because there are games that are now there are movies that are now being made of games as well. We've got Assassin's Creed coming, we've got more. It's just it's an interesting one. How whether there's so many comic book movies at the moment, and it's amazing, and I love it. But up until kind of like 2020, but maybe after that, the next kind of big wave will be movies made from games. Yeah. So maybe we'll see more of those.
Yeah, it could well be. I remember back in my younger days, as we played on our Commodore 64s, and we talked about, imagine if there was an advert for one of these games that we're looking forward to, and it just felt like it would never happen. You couldn't imagine that there would be an advert for Commando or Choplifter or something like that. It seemed just unheard of, because this was just our hobby and adults just didn't care and stuff, and we've grown up with that, and now it's sort of, we're the adults, the kids are coming straight into it as well, but we can appreciate that. And I was just a bit shocked, but it could have just been someone who just was like you say, expecting something else and was like, oh, a gamer. So maybe I'm a bit like that, reading a bit too much into it. But, I just thought I'd mention it. So that's sort of my week. What about your good self?
I mean, my weekend was taken up with just kind of one thing, and that was Comic-Con, as well as kind of doing chores, DIY around the house. I was kind of fully focused on what was happening. One of my dreams is to go to San Diego and not dress up, but maybe as Boba Fett, but just kind of go there. And so I was watching as much as I can. It's really interesting because now, with the internet as it's evolved, you can now see those Hall H panels. There's lots of IGN had a San Diego live, and they were just constantly streaming interview after interview and news item after news item. I was looking on Nerdist website, and it was good fun, just kind of sitting back and enjoying that, as well as the gaming that I was doing. But it was just really good fun. So that's kind of one part of my week. I mean, the kind of standout, really big things that happened this year at San Diego were, we had the Batman Superman trailer. We had more than a teaser. We had a 4-minute trailer, which was amazing. I just sat there and I watched it, I think, about 3 or 4 times. And then I just love it. I cannot wait for that movie. It looks just what I've always wanted. When I read Dark Knight Returns way back when, that was the movie that I wanted. And the fact that Affleck is Batman, which is a big plus for me, I just can't wait to see that movie. And then not only did they show that, they also showed the Suicide Squad as well. So we had the trailer for the Suicide Squad. That was an interesting one because they released the trailer. Well, they didn't release the trailer. Someone kind of periscoped or took a video of the trailer in Hall H, because that was going to be a San Diego exclusive. We weren't supposed to see that until about November. But because it was then out on YouTube and people were seeing this poor quality, Warner Brothers just went, here's a proper quality, apologies to all those people that queued, but here you go, here's the trailer, and it looks amazing. Have you seen either of those? Have you seen either of those trailers?
All I've seen, I haven't seen the Batman vs Superman trailer yet, and all I've seen of the Suicide Squad is the Joker, but just a picture of him looking scary.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, it's an interesting one because we're going up against Heath Ledger's Joker here. That was the last one that was there, and it's still that movie for me is not only a good superhero movie, it's a good movie. If I have to list the top 5 movies, I think Dark Knight is in there, and it's not in there because it's a Batman movie. It's in there because it's a really good heist movie, And it was amazing when I saw Heath Ledger's Joker. And whenever I watch that movie, I still can't. Sometimes when you see somebody, you think that's just that person playing that role. Like when you saw Jack Nicholson's Joker, that's Jack Nicholson playing the Joker. But when I watch Dark Knight, I never think that that's Heath Ledger. I don't know whether it's because he died after and he's no longer around, but I just never put the two together. In my brain, it doesn't connect those two. So it's a hard one, but it's quite scary. It's quite a scary adaptation of Joker. The trailer's quite good. It finishes with a whole kind of look at the camera and about kind of a couple of paragraphs, and it's quite scary. But it looks like he may have, it looks like we may have an interesting take on the Joker, and there are so many different takes on the Joker. You go from Mark Hamill's Joker to Jack Nicholson to Cesar Romero. You've got all of these different takes, so it's going to be an interesting one, and I'm definitely going in with kind of open eyes to all of them. But the trailer looks good. It looks like Harley Quinn is spot on. So that's August next year, and Batman vs Superman is March. So it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, and are there any games tied in with these two licenses? I haven't heard anything.
Well, they haven't said anything. There's been no. I've got a news item a bit later that was a games related something that came out of San Diego, but there was. I mean, games were there. Microsoft were there again. Because it's back to what we were talking about earlier. They really do kind of all of these events. They're there. They're always there. Major Nelson was there. Rare was there. They even had a Rare cosplay event. It was a really good showing. So they were there, kind of they had a lounge somewhere and they were showing off. Gears of War, etc. So they were there, but there was no mention of that Superman game that we were talking about last week. So they kind of kept that quite close to their chest.
Yeah, and Suicide Squad's sort of begging for a game, but if it's a film, really games tied in with films don't really work because of rushing to hit the deadline for to hit like dual marketing and things like that. So we'll wait and see. But I didn't see as much of Comic-Con as yourself. But yeah, it's still so cool. I love all that stuff.
It really
I love that things are going on all the time. When we had Minecon last week, E3 isn't that far. It wasn't that long ago. There's just seems to be events coming up all the time, left, right, and centre at the moment.
Absolutely. I mean, my only other thing that I did this week, a bit of a kind of first world problem grumble, was that I got a brand new book this week, which was Abomination by Gary Whitta. So I backed Gary Whitta on Ink Shares, which is kind of like a Kickstarter for books. Right. So I booked him on there. Gary Whitta is an English author. He wrote Book of Eli. He's next job is the Rogue One movie, the Star Wars Rogue One that we get next year. He's also been writing. He wrote some of Walking Dead, the game, the Telltale game as well. So he wrote some of that. He's a great guy. He appears on IGN podcasts and other podcasts, and he's just he's a real character, and he's really good author as well. So I started reading his book, was really enjoying that. So it's called Abomination. I think it's now available on Amazon as well, and that's quite interesting. It has almost a Game of Thrones-y kind of appeal to it. It's set in England during the reign of this King Alfred the Great. an Abomination. This character's got magic. It's the book has got kind of a magic monsters and a heroic knight, you know, and then there's a headstrong woman, there's a quest, you know, it's all kind of, it's very interesting, and I'm a couple of chapters in and I'm really enjoying it. So I'm there, I'm kind of reading that, I'm enjoying that, having a good time, and then during Comic-Con, Ernest Cline drops a brand new book. So I'm just like, so suddenly I'm reading this Abomination, I'm happy, I'm reading it at my pace, and then Ernest Cline, the creator of Ready Player One, which is going to be a movie soon, he then drops a new book. So I was like, you know, didn't you guys talk? I need, you know, it's almost like that first world problem that we have with gaming. I've now got it with books as well. So not only have I got a backlog of comic books and games, I've now got a backlog of books as well. So I've downloaded the Ernest Cline new book called Armada. It sounds very interesting. It sounds very science fiction. You know, it's about a guy who's dreaming in the real world. He's dreaming about movies, games, video games, science fiction, and then he comes across a UFO. So it's, you know, bound to be with Ernest Cline. It's bound to be full of 80s references and video game references and all of that. So it's kind of, I don't want to speed read through Abomination, but at the same time I really want to get to this book as well. So it's an interesting
That's
problem.
A bad time to start a book if this is dropped. Is it released? Is this new book by Ernest Cline released, Armada?
It is. It came out on the, I think it came out yesterday.
Right, I'm going to get it. Huh.
It's available. It's available in Kindle. Yeah. So, because you can just like pre-order, click, done, you know, and that's it, and it's there. So it's either today or yesterday.
Yeah, I'd read about this before, but then it just disappeared off my radar. You know, I'd read that he was working on a book, and then sort of promptly forgot. I thought, because I'm used to waiting for the next Game of Thrones book, Winds of Winter, and so I'm just. I like read about a book coming now, and I'm just like, right, I'll forget about that because who knows when that's going to be. Yeah, so that's fantastic news. I'm going to get that book and read it. I'm not even reading a book at the moment, and I love Ready Player One. I always talk to anyone I meet if we talk about books, or I'll talk about books myself. I just say, have you read Ready Player One? You should read Ready Player One. Ready Player One's the best book. You know, I just will go on about Ready Player One for ages. It's one of the best books I've ever read. I absolutely love it. No,
it's fantastic. I started listening to that. It was narrated by Will Wheaton. Yeah. Will Wheaton, and I started to listen to it. But I was enjoying the book so much that I was like, no, I can't do that. I need to read it. I need to read it myself. But the problem was, because I'd heard Will Wheaton's voice when I'm reading the book, I kind of have this Will Wheaton impression in the back of my head doing the reading the book out loud.
That's quite good. A bit of a Will Wheaton narrative.
Exactly. But it's a fantastic book, and I'm looking forward. Hopefully, they'll be able to do it. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm looking forward to I think it's a Steven Spielberg production, which is the Ready Player One movie in a couple of years' time.
I mean, the movie rights were bought before the book even came out, and then there was a big battle for the major players to actually who was going to get them. There's a bidding war, from what I believe, and then they got it, but then it sort of sat dormant because I'm sure you'll agree that the way that it played out in my head, for instance, it just staggers me how they could bring that to the big screen. And it's not just that; it's all the licensing.
Absolutely, you know, how they're going to get war games and all of that. And it's huge, you know. But it's a fantastic book, and you know, if you haven't read it, it's a must. It's a must. So let's get on to the game. So what have you been playing? What have you been playing this week?
This week I've been playing. Not loads. Witcher 3. Same as that I've been talking about in other podcasts, really. I'm still trying to sort of get everyone together for what I think might be the final stand against the bad guys in it, the Wild Hunt. But the thing is, I'm on the last few people to find, and it's not showing up on my map where I'm supposed to go. So I'm in Skellige, and it's like, right, go and talk to Thingy and help him with the Thingy. And I'm like, that's fantastic, but there's no waypoint. And I was like, maybe this is because I haven't spoken to the guy previous to this point, and maybe I was supposed to do some more secondary quests in Skellige. Now, Skellige is a massive map, and I'm like, okay. Well, I'm not going to just wander around aimlessly. I'll have to go and start working through the Skellige secondary quests, and hopefully I'll meet these two people on the way, and then I'll do that quest, and then I'll do the next quest. So that's what I'm doing on Witcher 3. With all my trauma of cars, I haven't played as much as I'd like. And then But equally, because of my trauma with cars, I had to go on Drive Club. A few goes on that because I was looking if they had a Mazda RX-8 in it. I think I was hoping a little bit too much there, but I just thought I'd have a look. And it isn't featured anyway. But I thought I'd just have another go. It's the first time since I've started playing it since the PS Plus version came out. And I'd forgotten how good it was, I really enjoyed it. I played as part of the Lost Spark Drive Club that we've got created, and I saw that you were indeed a member, Anthony, and I got us some points.
I am indeed a fully fledged member, and I'm also driving with the Lost Spark livery as well.
Absolutely. I mean, that took me some time to create. I really don't like the decals in that game, but I did my best. I tried to make a spark. So I was quite enjoying that. It's one of those games, though. You need to learn the tracks, don't you? And it's hard when it's night time, and I did multiplayer. I thought I'd go for it. I think I held my own fairly well, in that I finished or came second to last, which for me I thought was quite good. But yeah, it sort of made me think, I want to play more of this. The splendour of the graphics. I was doing a Japanese course and I rounded a bend and it was raining, and then the sun was out, and it's a bad thing really because I couldn't see anything, but it blinded me. The reflection off the road, I could not. It was like like real life when you want to put your arm in front of your eyes to shade you. But you can't do that in the game. So you just got the glare. I wanted a button on one on the pad to bring down the visor, but there is no button like that. And I was just like, crikey! It was having the same effect on me, making me squint, just like it would in real life. And then I rounded the corner, and I was just like, wow! It is staggering. What these next generation consoles can do is amazing. So yeah, a bit of Drive Club, enjoyed that, and then I had a bit of a knockabout on Rocket League. Earlier in the week, or later in last week, after we spoke about it, I popped on a few times and the servers were broke still. So I gave it a little rest, but I tried again today, and I had my first multiplayer match and it was all working very smoothly. My fans didn't go crazy. The PS4's still alive, so it hasn't blown that up. And I had a good old multiplayer match. 2 matches, won one with my team, lost the next match with my team, so 1-1, not bad. It was a draw for me. And I just really like it. Have you had a chance to play it?
I did. After your singing after you were singing its praises last week, I had a game. Like I say, the same as you, I couldn't get online. It was very early. I think it was like Friday or Saturday last week. So I had a quick go, and I loved it. It was a crazy game. It's just I have no idea how I scored 2 goals.
Oh, well done.
But I did, and it was really good. I'm looking forward to having a game with you because I think it would just be crazy fun.
Yeah, we need to do that. It's proper sort of high octane fun, isn't it? But just quick game, quick fun, great. It's a good time, but it's one of those where your 4 minutes of one full game, that could easily escalate into a whole night.
Yes, yeah. I mean, like I say, I was just playing against bots. They were, I don't know, when you were playing your online game, were people just crashing into you as well? Because I was getting a lot of people just kind of crashing into me, and these were just bot controlled. So I was thinking it's going to be just as crazy when it's online. Yeah,
it's like a proper destruction derby, and I found it harder online to hit the ball. Like when I was playing against the bots, which I was doing too to train. I've only played multiplayer like once. I found that I could sort of do my jump and then flip myself into the ball quite well to send the ball the way I wanted it to go. On multiplayer, I found it very difficult because maybe the added pressure and the fact that so many people are racing for the ball and people are a lot cleverer than the bots that I had on rookie level. But yeah, it's proper carnage, and you got to work. You got to work to score or to defend. It's a good game.
Fantastic. Yeah, though we should definitely try and find some time over the weekend now that the servers are up and running and have a game.
Yeah, we'll do that. So that's my games for the week. What about your good self?
Well, I finally finished Arkham Knight story mode. So there's a main story in the kind of story wheel at 12 o'clock, if you will. Straight up, there is the main story of the game. And I finished that. So went through that. Last week when I was saying that I wanted to know who the Arkham Knight was, and I was desperate to find out that so I finished that storyline, and that was just fantastic. There was some pieces in there, some kind of set pieces, some scripted pieces that were just amazing. There was a few times with the tanks that were annoying me, so it was really funny. I took my headphones the headphones I've got, those Turtle Beach ones, you can switch. So I switched between listening to Batman to listening to a podcast while I was trying to do this thing that I kept failing time and time again. And I thought that helped because it was less daunting. There was less of kind of a build-up of music and sound. So I was just listening to a podcast instead. So I got through a couple of the sections like that. And then the moment I got through straight back to the game audio, it was just really lovely. But there were some amazing pieces in this game towards the end. As the storyline, I just wanted to get to the next bit because I wanted to find out more of this story. I wanted to do the next section, and I really was. It got to the end, and I just didn't want it to finish. I was just enjoying it so much, and it finished. There's two endings. There's no spoilers here, but there's two endings to Arkham Knight. There's the ending that I saw, and then there's the complete ending when you've done all of the side missions. So that's kind of my next challenge, but between then and when it will be a game now that I just pick up every now and then. But what we've had is, as we reported last week, we had the Batgirl expansion came out, and also because I bought the season pass, I got the Harley Quinn level, or they're called Gotham Stories. I got the Harley Quinn story, so I played that. That was only about 25 minutes long tops. There was about 4 or 5 fights, and then one big one at the end, and that was quite interesting. The way that they stylized the screen was very cool. And then I started playing the Batgirl DLC. So, and the Batgirl DLC is very good so far. It doesn't seem, when I was scanning the oil rig that you're on, there doesn't seem a lot to be done. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be about an hour or 2 hours in length.
Yeah, Eurogamer doesn't seem too happy about it, to be honest.
Really? Have they given a review?
Yeah, I think it just dropped a few hours ago. I was just lucky enough to catch it before we started recording. They're not very happy with it. They say it's a bit cheap, not very long. They say basically if you want more of what you've been playing in the game, it'll scratch that itch. But they feel that they missed an opportunity with the direction and what they could have done with Batgirl, and that they go on to say a few other things, and obviously the comments go on to say a lot more things, all about the DLC that we've already covered. I don't want to really get into that again. So yeah, have a read of the everybody have a read of the Eurogamer opinion, and I suppose that'll drop on the other sites as well. But I mean, it's only, if you buy it standalone, I think it's $6 or $7.99.
Yeah,
so,
it's £5.70 UK. It's £5.70 if you buy it outside of the season pass. Yeah.
So it's not loads of money. If you're aware of what you're getting and you're happy to pay, it's fine, isn't it? Like all DLC, really. If you know what you're getting and your expectation is set and you're happy to pay it, then that's fine, and at least you've got a choice. So yeah, Eurogamer not too happy. You never know. Maybe some of the other guys will think it's okay, but I think it's quite short. I think people are feeling a little bit shortchanged by the length with all the promises of the DLC and the price of the season pass, and all that furore that's been going on.
I mean, like I say, I'm only about 20 minutes in, about 20, 25 minutes in tops. But because I
finished it.
No, I mean, yeah. But what I will say is that the environment is fantastic. It's this abandoned amusement park on an oil rig that just looks fantastic. When you're flying around and there's a couple of intro sequences, they look incredible. And you have Robin with you as well. So there's one of the mechanics they've introduced into this game is the dual takedowns. So you have a duo takedown. You press on the Xbox, you press the LB, and then you just kind of like throw a guy up, and then your other member would just kind of do a finishing move on them. And there's a lot of that between Batgirl and Robin, because Batgirl and Robin are not as seasoned as Batman, so they can't take him down on his own, so you work together, and there's a lot of that switching, and I'm really enjoying it, and Batgirl is like, she's all kind of gadgets, so there's lots of unlocking and things like that. So, it may be short, it may be a couple of hours, but at the moment, it looks great. Batgirl is a fantastic character to play with, and it's really cool, so I'm quite loving it.
Does it feel refreshed? Like you've gone through all the time with Batman, so you played that character. Does it feel different, or does it feel that you're playing really it's Batman but with an aesthetic of Batgirl over it? No.
Both Harley Quinn and Batgirl both feel different.
I mean,
Harley Quinn felt completely different. The whole aesthetics on the screen, the way the lettering, and when you press the up and it went into that detective mode, it was completely different for Harley. There was a psycho mode where she just goes a bit crazy. She has great one-liners, so it felt really different. Batgirl is similar to Batman, but again, you still feel kind of that you've got to, try and defend a little bit more, and as I was saying, rely on that other character as well.
Yeah, and does it feel like the levels have been designed with the powers and the move sets and the skills sets of those characters in mind as well? So does the design feel a bit different to accommodate the different character you're playing?
Well, it definitely feels more confined, because with Batman you've got the entire Gotham, or you have big portions of Gotham, but with this you've just got that one area, and at the moment there's a lot of RBing and just kind of grappling and flying around to different places, and also a bit of stealth and taking some guys out, and it's just like I say, I'll have more to report on it next week, but at the moment I'm happy with the content, but we'll just have to wait and see whether it kind of finishes abruptly when I sit down and play it this evening. We'll have to wait and see, but it's so far I have enjoyed both of those pieces of content.
Excellent.
So after that, after I kind of finished the Batman and I did Harley Quinn, I realised that I've got a couple of Telltale games that I haven't finished. So I fired up both Tales from the Borderlands Episode 3 and also Game of Thrones Episode 4. So I kind of fired up, I did Borderlands first and then Game of Thrones afterwards, and Borderlands continues to be, I think, my favourite Telltale game so far. Before then it was Wolf Among Us, because that was fantastic. That was amazing, stylized. I love the art style, I love the characters, but at the moment Tales from the Borderlands it's just fantastic. It's funny. They introduced a new character this time. A really funny robot. Really enjoyed it. Quite cute as well. And I just loved it. It's the Telltale games, they never really kind of make you chuckle because they're not that lighthearted, but this one actually makes me laugh out loud. I'm chuckling at the screen. There's some very good one-liners. There's some very good, and you don't have to be a Borderlands fan to enjoy it. They are just really good, kind of self-contained story, and it's just very funny. And then you kind of cross over and you've got Game of Thrones, which is almost the other end of the spectrum. It's a little bit dark, it's a little bit gritty, but I'm enjoying it just as much. They were both very good, so I finished both of those episodes. It's quite nice actually when you just sit down and finish an episode in one sitting rather than break it. It's always good with those Telltale games just to kind of find some time and just play an episode in one go. Yeah,
get engaged in the story and get properly immersed. Does that bring you up to date with both of those? Is that where they're up to?
It is indeed. Telltale were teasing this week on Twitter. They were teasing that there's going to be an announcement very soon about episodes 5 and 6, which are the last 2 episodes of season 1 of Game of Thrones. So that's coming, but that makes me up to date with both of those games.
Wow, fantastic. And yeah, like you say, you couldn't get more of a contrast, could you, than Borderlands and Game of Thrones?
No. One's bright and colourful. One thing that I really found quite interesting was when I'm playing Game of Thrones. Now, the Game of Thrones, it's split across 3 storylines. And I find that when I'm playing each of the characters, so it just keeps, similar to the book and similar to the TV show, it keeps flipping between different characters. But what I'm finding is when I'm playing one character, I'm finding I'm just I'm an idiot. I'm very stubborn. I'm very kind of set in my ways. When I'm playing another character, I'm all kind of honourable. And then when I'm playing the third character, I am very sneaky. And I find that as soon as it switches to that, my choices change and the way that I'm playing it. And it's a really interesting, the fact that they have these 3 storylines kind of all kind of crossing over each other. It's a very interesting game, and I'm looking forward to the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, I bet they'll be really good. I've been reading a lot of good reports on it. And it's interesting the fact that you say that you're sort of playing it from what you think the character would do, rather than thinking, oh well, I'd do this, because of the story's obviously grabbed you, and it's like, well, this guy, he's a bit sneaky, and it's like, right, well, I'll do that, or somebody's really horrible, and because of the character. So you're getting invested in the character and you're playing as the character instead of, like in a lot of RPGs, for instance, I just play as me. So I'm always boring and good, and I never like do anybody over or anything or rip anybody off. I'm just go, oh yeah, I'll do this. I always go for the good side. So that's interesting, that, because if it sets you up to sort of be nasty as part of it, it'd be quite good fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, when I'm playing one of the characters, I've got an agenda. I know exactly what I want to do, and I am just not deviating from that at all. And it's really interesting. And like I say, it's at the moment you switch to the different character, how you instantly change. And it's very good. I'm really enjoying it. It does kind of. It does overlap with the TV show or the books. You do get, every now and then, you get like a reference. We've already had Joffrey's wedding. You know, we've had the Red Wedding. You know, all of those things. And if you're a Borderlands fan, a Game of Thrones fan, you know what's happening in those. So we've already had that kind of those references and been kind of, you know, the Red Wedding's happening over the wall, and you're kind of dealing with the repercussions of that. So it's a very interesting game, and well worth kind of picking up. And I did notice that Xbox at the moment have quite a large sale on, and the Telltale collection, which includes Walking Dead and Game of Thrones and Wolf Among Us and Borderlands, is actually available quite cheaply at the moment.
Yeah, it was. I noticed it was an offer on PS4 a little while ago. I don't know if that's still going on, but I think I mentioned it was like £28 for everything, and it was like, wow, you know, well worth it. Even if you're stuck for time like we are, you know, that price, you can't go wrong. You know, and then one night, instead of a film, sit down maybe with the other half, have a few wines, and just pick what you're in the mood for, because you've got a nice selection there as well of different moods, and just go for it and get involved.
Yes, absolutely. It's quite interesting because I haven't been able to get Nicola to play these games, but when I've been playing Walking Dead, she is just into it. She just sits there, and it's quite funny. She's like, I'm just going to go and do this, or I'm going to go do something else. The next thing I notice, she's sitting there on the sofa next to me watching this, not saying, oh, you need to do that, or you need to do that, just engrossed in the story that's happening in front of her. So it's a really interesting, I love the Telltale games, and you know, I hope they update their engine and just continue doing kind of what they're doing, because they just do it really well.
Yeah, and surely an engine update is due. It's got to happen soon. That's the one thing that's just missing, isn't it? A little bit more of that visual clarity that is getting a bit old hat now.
Yes, absolutely. If they could just update that engine, ready for we've got a Michonne episode of Walking Dead coming soon. If they could just update it before that and just give us, you know, and then before they're going to be doing Minecraft and DC and as much as things we don't even know about yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
So, well, let's start the news section. And in this week's news section, we sadly say goodbye to an industry giant. But we've got news from San Diego Comic-Con. We've got more news coming out of there, and we also talk about a console that powered the Pluto probe. So that's really hard to say, the Pluto probe, but that's an interesting last-minute addition to our news. So the first item of news is with me, and it was a sad piece of news that happened about 1:15 on Monday morning, and this was that Nintendo broke the news that Iwata, the president and CEO of Nintendo, Satoru Iwata, had sadly passed away at the age of 55. So I think, you know, it was quite interesting to see Twitter just. Everybody was shocked. I mean, we knew the guy wasn't well. I think he stopped traveling a couple of years ago in 2013, or he stopped traveling, but unfortunately his illness took the best of him, and he sadly passed away on Monday. But it was incredibly sad to see all of the different giants of our industry just kind of reacting to this and just saying, you know, how we will be missed and how the industry is taking quite a large hit. I think one of the things that always stuck out for me was that one of the quotes from Iwata was that he always said that on his business card, he's the corporate president, but in his mind, he's a games developer, but in his heart, he's a gamer. And I just thought that exactly is kind of, it's him, it's Nintendo, and you know, and I think he will be sadly missed.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's It's funny you should say that about that quote, because that's I'm looking at that business card quote right now, and that was if you didn't say it, I was poised and ready to say that was my one of my favourite standout moments of what he'd said, and how it sort of epitomises his role within Nintendo, and that's what a gamer, and that's what we would want, that's what the fans would want, heading up one of the platforms, heading up one of these big corporations is a gamer at heart, and we all knew that anyway. But yeah, what a sad tragedy, and so young at 55, and a shock to the industry. I don't think anybody was expecting that it was that far gone. That his condition is just. Couldn't believe it when I saw it, and as we saw, and the industry can't either. Tributes flooding in, and seen so many touching and moving pictures and artwork that have been created to try and get across the emotional feeling from the fans, and to try and just sort of get that feeling out there and show tribute, and it's very touching to see.
Absolutely. I mean, he was a giant. He was a giant of our industry. He was the president. He became the president of Nintendo in 2002, and he changed Nintendo. They were, I guess, in 2002 they were in the slump of a GameCube. They were struggling. And he became the president at that point, and really started to change things around. I mean, I remember there was a shareholders meeting where the shareholders were calling for people to lose their jobs, and for them to just restructure and reduce the amount of people. And he just stood up and he said, that won't work. What we need to do is we've got really good employees here, and by slicing numbers is not going to work. We need to just be competitive and just keep Nintendo's business going on a long run, and he had an end goal. And I guess after that we had things like the Wii, we had the DS and a 3DS. So he definitely had a vision of where he was taking Nintendo, and he's definitely lived up to it. I mean, because he came from development background, didn't he? He was a developer.
That's right. Because he began his career at HAL Laboratory, and he was so good. He, whatever he turned his hand to, it seems, he was really good at whatever he did, and he became president of there in 1993. And he was very involved in the creation of games like Balloon Fight and Kirby as well. And that's where he got to know the former boss of Nintendo, Hiroshi Yamauchi. And he became, because of this friendship, he got in there. In 2000, he became the head of corporate planning at Nintendo, and that was just before the launch of the GameCube. So he was at Nintendo for that, through that difficult time. And then when he became president, like you say, in 2002, he sort of got through that, steered it through, and then made Nintendo one of the most successful companies maybe in the world, I think, with the Wii and the DS. He just took it, he took that line sort of right off the top of the graph. So he had a vision in it, and he did realise it within Nintendo. I don't think you can always hit the ball out of the park. He did have some other storms that he had to weather, maybe with the Wii U perhaps, and the 3DS had a rocky start, but he fixed that. He fixed that, and he's brought mobile gaming with the DS and the 3DS. He's made it the dominant platform in Japan as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's because of him we have things like Kirby. He also was a programmer on Earthbound, if I'm right. So he was working on that. My two favourite Iwata stories are, one of them was that he managed to cram an extra set of levels or an extra region from Pokemon Blue and Red into Gold and Silver. So he was given Pokemon Gold or Silver, and he was playing it. It was like, that's not big enough. People deserve more. So he then spent a lot of his spare time squeezing in the entirety of a region into that game. I was just like, what guy does that? What kind of CEO does that? And just rolls up his sleeves and says, I'll show you how you do it. This is how you do it. And my final one, and the one that always makes me chuckle, was that the E3 of 2005, he confirmed up on stage, it was up on stage, that Super Smash Brothers was coming out and HAL Laboratories were making it. But the only thing was, before he made that announcement, he hadn't told or asked HAL Laboratories that they were making a Super Smash Brothers title. So he basically just said, well, if they refuse to do it, he was going to port over the GameCube's one, which was Super Smash Brothers Melee.
Yeah.
He said he was just going to port that over if they refused to do it. But obviously they didn't refuse, and they made it a cracking game. So I just thought, that kind of shows the craziness that he is. But also he wanted that game. He loved Super Smash Brothers, and he wanted that on multiple platforms.
Yeah, the actions of a gamer at heart, like he always said. And it's a great sadness and a great loss for the industry.
Absolutely, he will be missed. I think he was, and obviously this is not the time to start talking about that, but it does make you wonder who's going to be next, in the big seat, and where they're going to go. So, I mean, the great thing is he's been very instrumental before he passed away. He's been very instrumental in the NX, the next Nintendo console. So we're going to see a little bit of Iwata in there. And I thought one of the nice things I saw on Twitter was that somebody was tweeting out his QR code. So there was a QR code to a Wii Me, that you could put into your friends list, and I just thought that was quite nice, on Nintendo. So you would always have Iwata kind of running around, doing crazy stuff on your Nintendo Wii U.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it's a nice touch. So, it's really, really tragic. R.I.P. Iwata-san.
Absolutely. So cheer us up a little bit, Darren. Tell us what's next on the news.
Okay. The next thing that we've got on the news is something that you will love, Anthony, and that's that there's some new Batman DLC on the horizon.
Woohoo!
Yeah, it's coming out in August, and it's going to be some skins for the 1989 Tim Burton's Batman.
Nice.
So in August, we're going to get season pass owners are going to get the 1989 movie Batmobile pack, which is you're going to get a Batman skin and Batmobile from the 1989 film, and 2 tracks inspired by the film's sequel. So that's pretty cool. You're also going to get in August the Bat Family Skins pack, which is 6 characters, with alternate timelines. So you're going to get 1990s Catwoman, 1 year later Robin, Arkham Orange's Batman, iconic grey and black Batman, 1970s Batman, and the original Arkham Nightwing. 1970s Batman for me would be cool, especially if he's got sort of the one from the film with the shark repellent spray and what have you.
Nice. A little bit of a paunch, a little bit of a that'd be quite nice. A little bit of a tummy. He had a little bit of a tummy in the 70s. Oh, that's just so cool. So the one that they were saying about was the comic one. I guess that's Neil Adams' Batman. See, this is when I start getting a little bit nerdy. I haven't seen this, so I need to check this out, because it's quite interesting because you say that. So what I think I might do is get through Batgirl. You can see I'm quite excited about this. Get through Batgirl, finish that, and then what I might do is then just put that away, because I've got Rare Replay coming up. We've got Gears of War Ultimate Edition. So I've got a couple of games, and I've also want to start getting back into The Witcher as well. So maybe I'll put that away and wait for those DLCs, because now that I've finished the game, I really would like to have a bit of fun and kind of jump around as a different Batman. Yeah,
and you can just save a few up, and then when you go into it, you'll have like loads of different things to explore.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a gaming plan. I will do that. That sounds good fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So nothing else in that report, because I know there was supposed to be some more kind of story modes and some more villains, etc. coming.
Not that I've seen. This only talks about just the 1989 Batmobile and the 1989 Batman skin, and then the Bat Family Skins pack, but it doesn't mention any more villains or anything like that, or any more story. But there's 2 more story packs coming, but we haven't had a date on that as far as I know yet.
Right. Oh, that's really cool. That's going to keep me playing that and dipping back in. I quite like that. That's quite cool. So, my next piece of news is still on DLC. Everything has DLC now. But this was CD Projekt Red. They announced that the first expansion for Witcher is going to be coming out, and the games director, Comrade, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce his surname, explained that they've got 2 expansions that are coming. The first one will be around 10 hours, and the second expansion will be around 20 hours. Are you listening to that, Rocksteady? Batman? So we've got 30 hours of DLC content for The Witcher, where the 2 of those that are kind of together are actually bigger than The Witcher 2. So this is some considerably large DLC coming out for Witcher.
Wow, and it's almost where the line should be drawn between calling it DLC and calling it an expansion. I think they're looking at these I think they're calling them expansions. I mean,
calling it Witcher 4.
Totally. And I mean, this is fantastic news, and this is what we all want. But I'm like, give us a break. I'm doing my best to get through The Witcher 3. I'm like, no, I won't. I probably will. If I'm lucky, I'll have just finished it, and they're going to drop these, and it's just so fun. But I think I'll do a little bit like what you did there, and just park it for a bit. I'll know that they're there waiting. And I'll get involved later, but it's great, DLC is one or 2 things. It can be annoying and vacuous, and it can be a bone of contention for many people. But when it's done right, and when it extends and enhances a game that you love, and it doesn't matter, I have not played Batman and stuff, but there'll be plenty of people that are happy with it. And so if it floats your boat, then it's great, isn't it? It's great to have the option.
Absolutely. If you want to continue either story or a story, then DLC does like that. Because, it's been 3 years since we had the previous Batman, and we've had to wait that long. So when you get it, there's extra stuff. It's fantastic, and I buy stuff straight away when it comes out, but you don't have to do that. Like this Witcher DLC, when it comes out, I don't have to buy it day one. But when in April or May next year, when there's a bit of a lull, I might go, actually, do you know what? I've got 30 hours of gameplay here. So you can just pick it up then. But at the same time, if you finish The Witcher 3 and you're like, I want more of this, and you've got some 20 to 30 hours worth, that's just fantastic. That's just such great value. So I guess there's been no details that have been released about this, so I'm guessing this won't be part of the free DLC. This will be the first paid DLC for Witcher.
Wow. Well, while we're talking about The Witcher, here's some a few pieces of trivia for you Witcher fans out there that I found on VentureBeat.com. Which gives you just a few facts about the game. So here you go. I'm not going to read all of them out because I didn't think they were all that great, but some of them are quite interesting. So The Witcher 3 has 172 unique Witcher silver swords, according to Sword Buyer's Guide. It takes around 3 to 5 hours to traditionally sharpen a sword in real life. So you'd need around 688 hours or 29 full days to sharpen every sword. Wow. Luckily it happens quicker in the game, with a quick touch of the green button. Or the
you imagine just one gaming session, and you're just sharpening a sword in one game. So Claire comes in and she's like, "What are you doing?" You're like, "I'm just sharpening a sword."
Yeah. Well, 29 full days. You'd have to leave it running in the background, wouldn't you? It'd take almost as long as my last Xbox update. Didn't. Yeah. So another one is if the doors in The Witcher, in Novigrad, so in the city, it's sort of like, I don't know if it's the capital, but the main city in the Witcher's universe is Novigrad. If all the doors in there opened and were animated like Resident Evil, they would take 5 hours to open. That's how many doors there are.
That's a fantastic stat. I love that. If all those doors were like the opening sequence of Resident Evil, which was painful, or not that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's got 2,000 working doors in that area, which I think is amazing in itself. But yeah, it took 9 seconds to open the doors in Resident Evil, so it'd take you 5 hours.
Wow.
I used to be full of trepidation when on Resident Evil 1, when the door opened and I hadn't been in that room before on first playthrough, or even on second and third. Ooh, it was quite scary. I sort of passed it off as a dynamic that they're putting there on purpose to build up your suspense, but yeah, it was just loading time. But and I think I'll just do one more. It would take the average Briton 55 days to have all the conversations in The Witcher 3, because The Witcher 3 has got 1,500 dialogue sentences. It took 6 artists 1.5 years to put them all together, with the average British person having 27 27 conversations a day, it would take them nearly 8 weeks to naturally encounter all the dialogue sequences in The Witcher 3. If only there was a skip button in real life, they say.
Absolutely. I have some meetings at work I'd like a skip button for.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? You get all the benefit, but you just sort of just got to skip through. So,
they're
there's some
really good stats. And what website was that from?
That was from, I just closed it, which is great, venturebeat.com. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's stick a link in the link in the podcast.
Yeah, because there's more facts than I've written down, so there's more exciting facts for people to go and have a read of there.
Absolutely. If people want to be awash with facts about Witcher, then we've got the link for you.
We certainly have. What's next?
Well, mine is something that's coming out of San Diego over the weekend, and there was a panel over the weekend on Friday night, so Saturday morning our time, and that was the Marvel House of Ideas panel. And during that panel, they were talking about, so one fan, basically, because it's a Q&A session, so a fan got up on the mic and just said, what's your console strategy? You know, we've got no games coming out. We haven't had a game since Captain America, maybe. You know, what's your strategy? So they basically, Marvel said that they are very much focused on what their console strategy is for the future. You know, console games take longer to incubate, so it's a slower process. So it's kind of almost back to what you were talking about previously, Dan, where that rush to get that game out at the same time as the movie. So maybe they're looking at this whole Marvel Cinematic Universe and just dropping a game. Because if you think about it, the next movies that we've got in the Marvel Cinematic is we've got Civil War. And if you've read the graphic novel, Civil War is a fantastic storyline. You know, it's all of the superheroes. We've got that, and then we've got Guardians of the Galaxy again. And you know, there is a whole host of ideas, and it needs to have games that go beyond, as much as I love it and I pre-ordered 3.0, but it needs to be games that go beyond Disney Infinity. You know, these need Marvel, their movies and the franchises that they have need that Arkham treatment, I think. So hopefully they're going to get it. So they are now taking control. They're quality focused. They've got a developer strategy, so maybe they'll do stuff where they have different developers. Because I know they had, was it Ravensoft that worked on that amazing Wolverine game?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
And that was fantastic. You know, that was a really good game. I really enjoyed that. Not only because, I mean, the film was terrible, but the game was really good. So, you know, and we've had things like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, which have been more kind of a top-down fun, and they've been great fun. But, you know, it hasn't been since things like Spider-Man games or Marvel vs. Capcom that we've had really kind of heavy hitters. So it's quite interesting to see that they are focused on it, and I hope they mean that they're going to take it into a kind of 3D realm rather than just the Telltale games that we know that they're doing already. Yeah,
I think that the last good superhero game that I played was sort of the Neversoft era Spider-Man games. They were good. I like them.
Yes.
But they tailed off because they sort of milked it a little bit too much, but when that was new, I quite like those.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a Lego game coming out this year. Lego Avengers is coming out this year. Yep, that's coming out this year. So we have that, they're always great fun. You know, the Lego games are fantastic, but you just kind of want something else. You want a little bit more. You know, you want that like as you said, you know, Suicide Squad, I know it's DC, but Suicide Squad could be crying out for a game. You got multiple characters with different abilities, you know, similar to back over in Marvel, you've got Guardians of the Galaxy, you've got the Avengers. They've got different abilities. You can team them up. It could be there could be some really good games coming out of Marvel and DC, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. The next thing we've got on the list is there was an interview that ZNet covered with Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella. Now, this was an interview carried out by Mary Jo Foley from, as I said, ZNet.com, and she got to sit down with him after he left the Worldwide Partner Conference stage, which he gave a keynote for 14,000 plus resellers just the other day on July the 13th. So she got to sit down with him for 30 minutes and ask him a few different questions. And the reason that it stuck out to me is because there's some HoloLens information in there. There's some information about what he sees the Microsoft brand, where he sees it going, how he sees the universal apps for Windows 10 working, which brings in Xbox, it brings in HoloLens, it brings in their mobile platforms, and the amount of importance that they're putting on their mobile platform going forward after learning lessons from Apple and what have you, obviously. And they're bringing everything into sort of the same pot, if you like, so that you're not restricted to one app on the desktop. You're going to be able to take it through all your Microsoft systems or platforms, and it sounds really interesting. I'm not going to go on about the whole article here. I'm just going to go through a quick HoloLens piece, but I will link to it at the bottom of the podcast, and if you're interested in what Microsoft's position is and where they're looking to go, it's great. It's really current, it's really up to date. The thoughts from the man himself, the CEO of Microsoft, talking about it, so well worth a read. But the bit that jumped out at me was when she asked him about HoloLens. So Mary says basically that she's seen HoloLens. In fact, she's seen it before I even knew that it was around, when it was called Project Fortaleza, which I never heard that project name before. And she mentions that he had mentioned previously that he wanted to expand this just beyond just gaming, that it wasn't just a gaming device. So basically, where does he see it going? And he basically said, yeah, this is the first version, and it's going to be much more about developers and enterprise in the first iteration. It's not going to be positioned and sold, from what he's saying, as really a gaming device. It's going to be more about enterprise and working as an application at version 1. So it looks like, probably because they just couldn't, because it's such a fledgling technology, it would be very difficult with the constraints that we've already seen to get it working in a way that would satisfy gamers. So I think that's quite wise. They're going to use it for practical application within business and go from there with it. And with the guys that they've got on board, I mean, they've got NASA, they've got some huge companies in the States on board and ready to use this, as well as using it already. I'm sure that it's going to get the funding and the interest to develop, and that's a great thing. But we can all just be sort of rest assured that we don't need to jump on version 1 unless you want to. But at least if we do, we'll know that they're saying, yeah, it's not really a gaming device. It's more of an enterprise device at version 1. And he mentions that, yeah, they bought Minecraft because they wanted something that had some impact. He said about Minecraft, they got it because it's the number 1 PC app, the number 1 console application, the number 1 paid mobile app on iOS and Android. And they wanted a game that, even for the new medium of mixed reality, it would work. And Minecraft fits all of that. So this is why they jumped in, because there's been a bit of a question mark about how much they paid and what they've done with it so far. They've not really done anything. But I think they're just waiting for their AR to come to fruition, if you like, and then we're going to see Minecraft used in a whole number of different ways. Plus, they're doing the Windows 10 version, which we mentioned last week. So yeah, HoloLens, don't jump in straight away on version 1 if you want an all singing, dancing gaming experience. It's not for that, and they're saying outright it's not for that. So just be aware, obviously, if you want to early adopt and go for it, if you've got the cash spare. I'm a bit disappointed, but then I was disappointed with the field of view anyway. Gives them plenty of time to fix all these things, get it working in the enterprise. I mean, I don't know if you've seen any of the videos where they sort of use it in, say, for doctors or in hospitals or whatever, where they split the human body, or for students studying biology and they split the human body up and take away the skin, see the skeleton, see the heart beating, take the heart out from within the human skeleton, and then just have that beating in the room, and you can walk around it and it splits all the aortas and things. It's just truly amazing. So they're going to use it for that sort of thing, practical applications where it's going to really benefit industry, I presume. Say building cars and things like that. You could have this exploded diagram in front of you. It's pretty cool stuff. And then with the interest and the build-up and of money and the development, we'll, I imagine, get an amazing piece of gaming kit somewhere down the line, maybe version 3 or something like that. But it's a really good interview, a really good article, and as I say, I'll stick a link at the bottom of the podcast for that as well.
But like I say, it gives them time to, if they're messing around in the enterprise, it gives them time to just hone it and give us a better version of HoloLens. You can imagine a Xbox 1.5, if you will, which comes out with HoloLens, similar to how Kinect was with 360. It was halfway through its life cycle, comes out, brand new console with HoloLens, with Minecraft in the box, and you get to do that from day one, and you get to play around with that application, and then people talk about that, it becomes the buzz thing to do, and it will sell like hotcakes, because when the first Kinect was available, that sold out instantly in the UK and the US. Everybody wanted that. There was only a few games to start off with, but everybody wanted that experience. So maybe they'll do the same thing with HoloLens. But it's quite interesting because they use Kinect as well, don't they? In operating theatres and things like that, where you want to maybe read, a bit scary if a surgeon's reading what they're doing, but if you're going through your notes, and they have hospitals where they use Kinect to turn the pages and to go through the notes.
Crikey, that does worry me. The motion sensor,
it's not more like it's not more like cut here. It's more like talking about the patient's notes rather than put into like an IKEA instruction.
They're not operating a robot arm. We're using gestures, I hope. Imagine that, a scalpel in a robot arm that's being powered by the power of Kinect, and they're flailing around all over the place.
but in the even when they announced HoloLens, they had some enterprise applications for it straight away. They had that bike manufacturer, motorbike manufacturer that was going, it'd be nice if we raised the tank a little bit, and they showed what that was like. And I think things like that, it's going to work really well. I still like the idea of my dad being able to show me exactly what I need to do on that pipe, and I love that idea. I just think that would be fantastic. That would be amazing. Maybe that's things that you're going to do with your son in the future. When he's ringing you up because he doesn't know where his engine is in his car and things like that.
And I've got my overalls
by the power of HoloLens.
yeah, absolutely. I'll have to learn a lot about cars and DIY in general, as I know nothing about anything like that. But it's fantastic. That bit with the pipe, I was just like, this is fantastic. Yeah, it's just got to come out before our dads get too old. That's all. So that they can pass on this wisdom through the power of HoloLens.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think my dad would lend well to that. My dad's quite into his technology now. Surprising having me as a son, but he's really into his technology. So he's happy with the tablet, and he uses his phone. So it's, I think something like this he would be well into. So it'd be quite funny. So I think it would be. I can't wait for it to become a practical application for day-to-day use. But that's just because I'm a gadget fiend.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine these guys using it. They could just be armchair DIY guys. You ring up the handyman, and all you really want is just the knowledge that you're not going to mess it up. And if they can do it from there, they can get loads of business because they don't have to travel. They can cut the traffic out and the travelling out, and you can get instant help. It's the application just from that as the virtual handyman.
Absolutely. After about a year of that, my dad would just probably put it away because he'd be fed up with me just pestering every 5 minutes. Go, how do I screw this in? What do I do here? And he'd be like, just go away, please. Just go away. Am
I gonna drill through an electrical cable? Just tell me.
Yeah, he thinks I'm giving him a Christmas present to help, to get him some more tech. But actually, what I'm doing is a free Hayes manual to my life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've given you this HoloLens, but I didn't tell you I'm about to build a house.
Yeah, I want to know everything. So though it's going to be good fun. I love the idea of being able to just walk around, calling, all of that stuff that they kind of teased you in that initial showcase. Really did just blow me away.
Yeah, and it does feel or look. I don't know about the feel really, but it sort of seems a better application of it than Google Glass did.
Yes. No, I totally agree. And again, see, Google Glass is something that needs to be a version 2. It needs to be a version 3. So
yeah,
but I never did get to play with one of those. I always wanted to have a play just to see what that was like, just see what that vision thing was like. But I can't wait to just kind of. I'm hoping there's going to be some at Gamescom or maybe kind of Eurogamer or something like that to have a play around. Because I've played with Oculus, but I'm yet to play with Morpheus or HoloLens.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've had to go on Oculus, but neither of the other two. Morpheus is pretty much behind closed doors as far as I know. Mm-hmm. And, HoloLens is sort of mythic and only available to the hallowed press. But it's going to be an interesting year or so, isn't it? Definitely regarding VR and AR.
Absolutely, and from one piece of tech to another piece of tech, and this is all about 4K. Again, San Diego Comic-Con, where I'm getting all my news from this week. They had the Collision, which are the studio behind Gears of War, were talking about the Ultimate Edition, and they were talking more about the PC version. So what they're talking about is that the PC version has been built from the ground up with the, so Gears of War Ultimate Edition has been built with the PC in mind. Rather than the other way around with the original version, because the PC port of Gears of War was just a file save as of Gears of War. But with this Ultimate Edition, it's been built with the PC in mind, and it's going to be supporting 4K textures, DirectX 12, and an uncapped frame rate. So basically, you're going to have a version on your Xbox One, and then there's just going to be this Uber version on a 4K PC, which just kind of... It's pushing me closer to that PC, Darren. I tell you, it's just really. I'm even looking at websites now.
Oh wow!
After I heard this, I was like, I'm looking at websites. I'm getting some advice. I'm trying to figure out because I just think I love Gears of War, and to see it that sharp. I actually, after I heard this announcement, I went onto my 4K TV and fired up YouTube and was looking at some 4K gaming clips because YouTube plays at 4K, so the resolution was at 4K, and I was watching. One of them was the Formula 1 2015 going around Monaco in 4K, and it looked stunning.
Wow, I bet it
looked
did.
Absolutely stunning, And another one which was showing Battlefield in 1080p, which is what we're getting at the moment, and then in 4K. Wow. And then seeing the difference, and it made 1080p look like 480p.
Did it? Did it really?
It really did. It was like, here's 1080p. I'm like, that's a little bit fuzzy. And then they're like, here's 4K. And you're like, oh. It's just like, take my money now.
Wow.
And it was just looked really good. And so Gears of War is going to be 4K, DirectX 12, uncapped frame rate. They did say that they're not going to put Horde mode. They were talking about Gears of War in general, so not only about this kind of up-resed version for PC, but they were also saying that it's not going to have Horde mode in the game, because that was more in Gears of War 2, and the characters in Gears of War 1 were quite samey, so it would be a bit of a repetitive thing if they did that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really interesting. I want 4K so much, but because I'm a projector guy, I sort of drawn a line in the sand, and I'm like, I'm sticking with projectors, so I'm waiting for a 4K projector. And at the moment, they're just not quite at the price I'm willing to pay. They're still round. They're still roundabout.
So they are quite expensive, aren't they?
Yeah. So, but the same happened with before I made the jump to 1080p projector. I was always waiting. I was like, I'll get a projector when one is at the price I want to pay, but it's got to do 1080p. And then I got one. And at first I was like, well, we'll just switch between them both. But when we got it home and we put it on, we were so amazed by the clarity. We just took the other telly, put it in the bedroom. It was a bit big for the bedroom, but we didn't want to just get rid of it. So yeah, I want 4K so bad. It's sort of like one of these toys that I really want. I've seen them on display in PC World or whatever, and it blows me away. It actually looks like, I thought you couldn't. I remember when I saw DVD, and I was like, you can't get better than that. It looks amazing. Then we saw HD 720 and 1080p, and it's like that I couldn't even understand that it could be sharper than DVD, and I didn't think you could beat that. I remember seeing all these nature scenes on 1080p in the showrooms and that, and now you look at 4K, and I wonder what the resolution is that we're seeing, so that when I don't know it and I haven't researched that, but there must be a resolution that we're seeing, like retina resolution.
Yeah, and I thought this was it. I think because they're already, as technology does, one thing comes out and people talk about the next. So they're already talking about 8K and et cetera, et cetera. But I thought that the human eye, I thought 4K was the kind of max that we could
there's got to be a limit, hasn't there? Because we can only focus so much. So they'll hit a limit, and then thank goodness the progress that in that department will have to stop. They'll maybe make it more economical and cheaper to run and things like that, but thank goodness we'd have a standard that we've reached. It's like, right, it's retina standard, so you don't need to worry about all the other resolutions. We've hit this, there's no point going any higher. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? And we'd all know that that's it. When we're watching it, it's just like looking around in real life because it's that sharp. I mean, can you get better than 4K?
Yeah.
But I thought 1080p looked like real life until I saw 4K.
Well, absolutely. I mean, they lie to us.
They do, and our own eyes.
Like, it doesn't get any better than this. I mean, the interesting thing is, at the moment, the 4K that I've been watching has all been streaming. So I've been streaming 4K on both Amazon and also Netflix, as well as YouTube as well, obviously. But I've been streaming from them, and I'm waiting that later on this year we're going to get a 4K Blu-ray player, we're going to get 4K discs, and that's when I think my TV is going to pop even more, because at the moment you stick a 4K image on and it looks incredible. There's programs like Marco Polo on Amazon, or and House of Cards on Netflix, Daredevil on Netflix. These things look amazing in 4K, but again, it is streaming. I'm lucky I have the bandwidth so I can stream them at their top textures, but when you get those DVDs, I'm expecting a little bit of an improvement, because at the moment I'm thinking that streaming sometimes looks fantastic, but it's almost as good as a Blu-ray, or it's just a little bit better than a Blu-ray. But I think when you get to a physical media or a file that's local, then I think that's when we're really going to see those glorious textures. So I just. And as for gaming, I'm always that. I've always been on the fence about PC gaming, but if PC gaming can give me 4K textures, which I don't think we're going to get in our Xbox Ones or our PS4s, I think that's going to come next version, or next console. But, we're barely getting 1080p from an Xbox One, so we can't really talk about 4K, even with DirectX 12, maybe being an unlockable on the Xbox One. But we wait and see. But I really I'm quite interested in Gears of War Ultimate on PC.
Me too. Me too. Anything 4K. And PC's been doing 4K for a while. So,
and of course,
it's nothing new for the guys that have got a PC.
But the biggie that's coming out this year, which is Star Wars Battlefront, that's already been confirmed for 4K as well. So it's just, do I want that Star Wars goodness in my eyes? Hell yes. So maybe I might have to make the dip before the year's out. I just don't know. Yeah,
maybe. I mean, you mentioned about the consoles not being able to do it, and I expected this generation they would have invested the tech to allow it to get to the next HD jump, and they're sort of disappointed when it wasn't announced that there'd be like a new 4K medium as packaged as part and parcel of these new consoles. But I've sort of made my peace with that now. It's just, you mentioned it, so it brought up the sorrow. But
yes,
it's not all about graphics. If as long as the games are good, and this current generation is providing some great experiences. But what a shame that it can't compete with the PC, and the fact that the lifespans and the hardware at the start have to match it. Have to stay. And they were talking about that in the podcast Unlocked, weren't they, with the three fathers of Xbox, and that it was difficult because it's all about the money, and you've got the bean counters saying you can't have this, you can't have that, but they know as gamers that they need that extra 256 of RAM in there because it needs to be current and relevant for like an 8 to 10 year period. And I think they did really well with the Xbox 360 in that regard. And, it's like a flagship console. It was amazing, and it kept delivering, as these will as well. The difference is, I think 360, when it came out, was more on a par with sort of the mid to top level PCs. Maybe not top, because you can spend what you want on a PC, but you know what I mean, the PCs that most people had. Whereas this generation, you're sort of a mid to low end PC with what we've got already right at the start, and that's only that division is only, that gap's only going to get wider as time goes on. But at least and this is the thing, if you go for your console, at least that console's going to deliver for this set amount of years, be it 6, 8 or 10 years. With a PC, you can invest in your graphics card, and if you're that kind of person like we are, you're going to be gutted if it can't run 4K on the next game that's coming out, because all of a sudden you're like, well, it's time for a new card. And then you could invest in a card over 10 years, probably 2 or 3 times, I'd say. When you're talking $300 to $400 a pop, it's a deal do.
Yeah, I mean, each of these cards cost more than the Xbox and PlayStation, don't they? They are. It's not a cheap pastime switching out graphics cards.
No, it's certainly not. But it is full of wonder.
Yes, it's full of magic and wonder. But the last thing about this Gears of War panel that happened at San Diego was that someone asked, kind of, why aren't we getting the Marcus Phoenix collection? Why aren't we getting Gears 2, 3, and Judgment? And so somebody said, and I think it was Rod Ferguson, and it was not a direct quote, but he just said it's really hard. He just said it's really hard to do this game. We've done Gears of War Ultimate Edition, but to do Gears of War 2 and Gears of War 3, it's really hard. So and it takes about 18 months. So he pretty much said, what would you rather have, a brand new Gears of War or a Ultimate Edition of Gears of War 2 and 3? And that kind of shut the guy up quite quickly, and shut maybe everybody up. So we're not getting that Marcus Phoenix edition. We're not getting that collection, but we're definitely going to get a very good Ultimate Edition. And they are redoing this. They're redoing all the cutscenes as well, similar to what Halo 2 did in the Master Chief Collection. We're getting brand new cutscenes, and they've already kind of shown a bit of a behind the scenes at recreating those cinematics, and they are looking very, very lovely indeed.
Wow, fantastic. Well, from your bit of news, you've got a few pieces from SDCC, but I've got one as well, came out of San Diego Comic-Con, and that's a new trailer was shown for Transformers Devastation. And I don't know if you've seen it.
I love this game so much.
Yeah. It shows a little bit of the stuff that we've already seen on E3, but it shows a bit more as well. And I just thought it's worth another mention, because watching it looks fantastic. It's like playing a Saturday morning cartoon. And it's just so good that you've got Optimus Prime like flying down the road, then just jumping up and then transforming into his Autobot manifestation, and then just going into like fight mode. And the fighting just looks really good. Sort of, it's by Platinum Games, so it looks like it's got really tight controls. And then you've got these, you'll know better than me, but they've got the planes. I don't know, Starscream or something. That might be a car. The
Decepticons. No, Starscream is the purple plane with the one with the screechy voice.
Awesome! I got it right, because it's a purple.
You did. Well done.
Fantastic. Comic bronze medal for me. And so you've got Starscream just coming down, flying down like over a bridge that's over a river, and then just coming really low down and then transforming and then launching straight into battle. And it looks amazing. And I'm thinking, what if they're successful with this? What if they make other Saturday morning cartoons like Pole Position or let me think of some of those Thundercats. It could be
a
awesome.
Thundercats game in that style would be amazing. We're actually saying that there was a panel over the weekend. Have you ever heard of this game called Toy Soldiers that was on the Xbox 360?
Yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah, well, they're making a new one that's coming out later in the summer, and it includes, not only does it include Assassin's Creed as little playable characters, but it also includes G.I. Joe and He-Man.
Oh, He-Man, that would be another one. Yeah. Cool.
Just like, it's very funny, because sometimes I always remember when my dad would always say, he was like, I was too old to be watching that stuff. But I think I was when Transformers was out, but I didn't care because I loved it so much. It was just like, it was so cool.
They can make loads of good experiences using that engine. Like you just said, He-Man, that would be absolutely fantastic. Ulysses,
yes.
Battle of the Planets. They could. I suppose the licensing could be difficult depending where that belongs, but if this succeeds, I just want them to just. I don't care if it's the same game. Just put that engine over every cartoon that I used to watch, and I'll be happy.
It's really funny because my gaming, if I do have a little bit of gaming kudos, which I think I do, I think I can know that I know the good games from the terrible games. But I don't care about this game. I'm going to play it no matter what. I think I've pre-ordered it at Amazon. I haven't digitally pre-ordered it, but I'm going to play this game, even if it gets a 4 out of 10 on websites. I will not care, because I think my nostalgia glasses are going to give it at least a couple of more points, and the fun that you're going to have while you're playing it.
Yeah, it's Platinum Games though, so it should be good. It should be. I'm going to say.
On paper, it sounds good. On paper, it's an 8 out of 10.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's an 8 out of 10, but we'll see. We'll see.
But it's an interesting one. But I'm going to buy it. I'm going to
buy it as well.
And, I'm just going to enjoy it. I hope it starts with a theme tune. Soundwave is there, so it just tick tick tick. That's a game for me.
Yeah. Me too. So
And the next game for me, which is coming out a lot sooner than that one, because we don't have a release date, do we, yet, for Transformers Devastation? There's no release date yet.
No, it's all tease.
Now, I want it this weekend. But the next one, which is coming out very soon, September, is Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. So we had a report, or we had images were released from Konami this weekend, showing the final box art of Metal Gear Solid 5, and they have removed the Hideo Kojima title. So it's no longer a Hideo Kojima game, Metal Gear Solid 5, it's just Metal Gear Solid 5, and they've even taken off the logo as well. So what has happened over in Konami?
Yeah, I really don't know what's happened with that. Hopefully, after the release of Phantom Pain, we'll find out what's going on. Maybe when Mr. Kojima-san moves on to his next project, or maybe when his gardening leave kind of period finishes, if there are such constraints on him at the moment, maybe we'll find out a little bit more about the situation. But it's very strange, isn't it? This whole war between Konami and Kojima. Well, not that it's really a war, but just this slow disassociation with him that they're going through.
But they seem to have just dropped him, don't they? Just like overnight, there's no longer a Kojima Studios. There's no longer, Silent Hill has been cancelled. Yeah. They have just kind of almost washed their hands of him. I think, personally, because this could potentially be one of the last Metal Gear Solids, kind of, it'll probably just keep going. But it could be one of the last ones. I think they could have just left it on, because he is 100% this game. This game is all about him. He was the one who has got it to where it is, and I think as out of respect, I'm surprised it's not there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting what happens with the IP going forward, because there's a fan base there. Will the fan base be sort of loyal to Kojima and wash their hands of it after this if they do pursue the IP? Be interesting to see that. To be honest, for me, I've played quite a few Metal Gear games. I like them, but I do find the style of the protracted cutscenes going on for just a little bit too long quite annoying. But the game, usually, the actual dynamic of the game and the standout and showcase graphics has usually kept me there. I wouldn't mind a Metal Gear with maybe a touch less influence of that and a bit more. Maybe like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. That was good, as well. That was Platinum, I think. That was Platinum Games. But ironically, you say, they moved it from the box. It doesn't say a Hideo Kojima game and all the rest of it. And there was a few people saying that, it's saying that anyway was a bit of a disservice to all the other people that worked on the game. He's not the only guy that made it. But we're sort of used to it, aren't we? Because he made his name with it. It was his baby, and it sort of goes hand in hand, Metal Gear Solid and Hideo Kojima, and that was the thing. You get in that game, and you get in that. You know what you're in for. But ironically, he's plastered his name everywhere within the game, apparently, anyway. You're playing it, and everywhere you look, it's like a Hideo Kojima game. A Hideo Kojima game here, there, on a cardboard box. It's like Hideo Kojima on the wall. It's graffitied. Hideo Kojima on the cobblestones. Yeah. It's absolutely everywhere. So it's as if maybe he knew that something was going to happen. And he just... Because I think every level sort of has a credit sequence and comes on, it's like very cinematic, as you'd expect. And it's all by Hideo Kojima, written by Hideo Kojima, directed by Hideo Kojima. It's like everywhere, apparently. It'll probably
be delayed by a couple of weeks while the team remove every single Hideo Kojima reference from the game.
Yeah, that would be a delay, wouldn't it? Yeah. And it'd be interesting if they did that. But
day one patch. There'll be a day one patch that removes everything.
Kojima remover. That's quite difficult to say, actually. So who knows what's going on at Konami, but maybe in time we'll find out. An interesting one. That's, for me, is as interesting as what the heck happened in the hiatus between Last Guardian's announcement and now.
Yes. I do think that there are, in a couple of years' time, I do think there are some interesting books, some interesting articles that just kind of getting behind the scenes of what's happened with some of these kind of key games.
Yeah, absolutely. And for my next piece of news, this is quite a nice nostalgic piece for me. Commodore are bringing out a smartphone that plays Commodore 64 and Amiga games. How good is that? I mean, Commodore 64 was my computer of choice when I was young. I think I sort of went through my rite of passage as a gamer on the 64. I went from an Atari 2600, and the next one was Commodore 64 in my gaming ladder. And so apparently, and I must have missed this, but there was a tease. There was a tease of the possibility of a smartphone from Commodore in February.
Right.
But I never saw it. Anyway. But IGN have reported yesterday that it's true. There is a Commodore 64, Commodore smartphone. So Commodore, which I thought had disbanded, but I think they'd sort of disappeared, but they'd resurfaced because they brought out a sort of a new kind of Commodore 64 a while ago. But yeah, they're bringing out a Commodore branded Android smartphone. It's going to run Android 5 Lollipop, and it's going to let you play Commodore 64 and Amiga games because it's going to have Vice 64 built into it, which is a Commodore 64 emulator. It's probably the best one. And UAE for a 112 SDL Amiga emulator, which isn't so easy to say. So yeah, you're going to be able to play if you've owned the games and it's all legal or whatever that grey area is, or maybe they're going to sell them through the store. I don't know, but you're going to be able to play 64 and Amiga games on this Commodore branded smartphone, and that's just really cool. It's going to be called the Commodore PET, which is also interesting because there used to be a computer called the Commodore PET, which was a less powerful machine than the 64.
Really?
I remember, there's a few unfortunate people, friends at school, and Christmas had come and gone. It's like, what have you got? It's like, I've got a Commodore 64. It's amazing. I'm playing Commando, and I'm playing Fight Night, and I'm playing Frank Bruno's Boxing and Way of the Exploding Fist. What did you get? It's like, I got a Commodore PET. What's that?
It doesn't run anything. It runs Pong.
And it's like, have you got Way of the Exploding Fist? It's like, have you got Karateka? It's like, no, exactly. It's like, no, but it came with a magazine where you can type 16 pages of code in, and then you get to see a ball bounce. So that's pretty good. So yeah, there was a Commodore PET, I'm sure of it. But this is called the Commodore PET, and it's a smartphone. It's gonna have all that functionality of Android and what have you. Slated to launch, strangely not in UK as part of the first launch, in Italy, France, Germany, and Poland this week. In two models, a 16 gig stroke 2 gig of RAM model at $300 and a 32 gig an undisclosed RAM model at around $365, and then it'll come out in more European regions and North America. So yeah, that's really cool.
Interesting. What does it look like? Does it look kind of Commodore-ish, or
no? It looks nothing like it. It looks like a nice, sleek smartphone.
Oh wow! Interesting.
Really thin. I mean, on the pictures, there's no sort of hand, so I haven't got a perspective from that point of view. It's got the Commodore logo on the case.
Yeah.
It's got a 1920 by 1080 pixel resolution display.
Right.
1.7 gigahertz MediaTek 64-bit octa-core processor with the ARM GPU, ARM Mali T760 GPU, 13 megapixel camera, and an 8 megapixel front camera. And it's got 4G.
Wow. So I guess when you're playing the Commodore 64, the Amiga games, it's going to be touch control to play those, I guess. Yeah.
The pictures don't show me the front screen. They just show the sort of the fascia on the back with the camera and the Commodore logo.
Right.
But yeah, it's lying flat down on the surface, so it hasn't got sort of sticks or buttons. So it's going to be that floaty touch screen thing, which is a shame, especially that you sort of had to press the joystick pretty hard to move in some, on Commodore 64 games and stuff. Yeah. But still,
you could never play Daley Thompson's Decathlon on it, could you?
I don't know.
There was a lot of joystick waggling.
Yeah, but you could maybe do it with two fingers, like I don't know if you can hear that, sort of like that.
You mean they're pounding away at your phone on the way to work and stuff. But no, that sounds interesting. It's quite nice. It's quite good, for kind of our age group to kind of have that coming back. It's quite a nice nostalgia piece, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we've been well and truly targeted there.
Indeed, we've got that disposable income, so that's what they're targeting. They're like, how can we get more money out of that generation? How can we?
Yeah. What did they grow up with? The Commodore 64. There's some suckers there. That Darren Whittam for one.
Let's get them all out. So that's really cool. That's really cool. Well, my last piece for today's podcast is that this morning or last night we had the New Horizons space probe was sending back pictures of its flyby by Pluto. Amazing images that were coming back. I'm a bit of a space nerd, so it's quite nice to kind of see all of this. But the Verge website had a really interesting article to say that the New Horizons space probe is powered. The probe contains a MIPS R3000 CPU, and anyone who is nerdy knows that is the same CPU that was in the original PlayStation console. So the thing that was released in 1994, which ran at 33.8 megahertz, was in this space probe. So the thing that powered your PlayStation, that original PlayStation, has just been to Pluto and is sending back. Now this CPU was repurposed, but it was repurposed to manage the thrusters, the monitoring sensors, and transmitting data. So how cool is that? That thing that you had under your TV back in 1994 it's there. It's powering a Pluto mission.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
so cool, isn't it?
That's the power of PlayStation.
It really is. I mean, if I was Sony, I'd be all over that. I'd be like, our console send people to Pluto. You know, what does yours do, Microsoft?
Yeah, no.
But then again, Microsoft can come back, I guess, because they NASA use Kinect, they Oculus Rift to control robotic arms, and they're also now using HoloLens as well. So it's really cool. You know, we were talking about earlier about enterprise and gaming gadgets, just kind of mixing and just really kind of sharing the world.
Yeah, gaming pushing the envelope and being at the hub and the forefront of technology. It really is, yeah.
It's just fantastic. Did you see any of those pictures of Pluto?
Yeah.
They look fantastic, don't they? They're just
just amazing.
I
saw a funny one. I think it was on Facebook, and it said first image of Pluto, and it was like the Death Star.
That's awesome.
That was pretty cool. I couldn't tell at first because they sort of blurred it a little bit, and it was like, oh look. So I was like, well, it looks a bit like that, and I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, but that now means that we have photographed every planet. And that's just incredible. I love space. I've been to Cape Canaveral, and actually when I went there, they were pushing out one of the space shuttles very slowly, and it was just an amazing sight to behold. And I wasn't around for the launch because that was days later, but it was just fantastic. It was amazing. I love it, and the fact that a PlayStation powered that probe, that just makes me kind of makes me nerdy and proud of my pastime and my hobby.
Win-win for geekery.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, imagine now we've got all those planets photographed. It'd be a lot easier to defend the solar system, wouldn't it? Just like my next piece of news, The Last Starfighter. So, who remembers the 1984 film, The Last Starfighter? Well, I do. Absolutely love it. Science fiction film where the guy who's just a teenager, he gets so good at the Last Starfighter arcade machine, but it turns out that it wasn't just any old arcade machine. It was actually a test to find the best pilot in the universe to go and save the galaxy. Wow, I loved that film when I was a kid. And it seems that Variety have reported that the original Starfighter writer, Jonathan Betuel, has teamed up with an immersive entertainment company called Surreal to develop a Starfighter Chronicles, which will be the first TV show to include virtual reality elements. Ooh. So not only is it going to be sort of based on the Last Starfighter story, it's also going to include these sort of VR angles as well. It's not going to just carry on from the story of the teenager in the film. It's going to be its own thing, a serialized story about alien law enforcement, which sounds a little bit to me like what was that thing called where they had the aliens lived on Earth and they had sort of spotty heads?
V.
No, it wasn't V. It wasn't as good as V. There was a film of it.
Oh, I know the one. Enemy Unknown or something like that.
No.
So, Enemy Within.
No. Oh, they sort of had like motley.
Yes, and there was like a detective as well.
Yeah, and it was like a crime. It was like a crime thing. It was like,
listen to that. You could just hear the pain in your head as your brain is trying to do a query. Just trying to bring that back.
It's not cool.
Are you sure it wasn't Enemy Within?
No,
or something like that.
No.
Enemy Mine. I'm sure it was Enemy. I'm just going to keep saying titles with the word enemy in it.
It's not helping. Hold on, I'm going to put in sci-fi detective film.
I tell you, you're going to be when you come back with Enemy Mine, you're going to kick yourself, and I am going to have nerd kudos.
Well, I'll tell you something. I'm going to carry on doing this. I can always edit it. I'm going to have a bit of editing here. Science. What was it called? I nearly had it then, but not that I haven't found it. But what was it damn called? Alien Nation.
But Enemy Mine was also one with Dennis Quaid in. So,
well, that doesn't make it the one I was thinking of.
This is how I win bets. That's it, Alien Nation. That was the one that had the TV show. I'm glad I didn't say I would eat my nerd t-shirt if you...
I sort of forgotten why I even was thinking about it then.
So Last Starfighter.
Because it said it's going to be, instead of following the film, it's going to be a serialised story about alien law enforcement. I suppose, and it just reminded me of Alien Nation, because there was a bit of, in the show, I think there was a bit of like law enforcement on that. But yeah, while you'll be able to watch it on regular TV, certain scenes are going to be shot for VR headsets, allowing your viewers to get a 360-degree view of inside of the spaceship, for example. So they're saying this is the start of something that's going to be massive. The co-founders of Surreal TV, who are Rick Ray and Andy Vick, they're likening the state of VR right now to online video at the end of the last decade, and they're saying that the medium just needs a hit. They're saying it's going to be this. I mean, I don't know if it sounds that great, even though I like Last Starfighter. But they're saying it needs a hit that gives you this opportunity to go get involved, and immersed in this VR way to get people interested.
Wow, that would be awesome. So you like stick on Oculus Rift and there'll be some extra stuff, or Morpheus or something like that. Yeah.
So let's think. What do we like at the moment? So say Game of Thrones. I mean, I know that Sony with Morpheus have got a demo of going up the wall. Using Morpheus anyway. But imagine this, so you go into Westeros or something, or you go into the palace, or you go into Winterfell, and it'll be there, and it's like, so you want to go into the throne room of Winterfell, and it'll be like, yeah, this scene is one that you can go and have a look at. So you put your VR on and you watch the scene maybe from the point of view of actually being one of the suitors or something like that, or one of the crowd, one of the nobles of the court or whatever. So it sounds fantastic. But he does mention that it's early days yet, and they're only at the stage where they're chatting with potential suitors to pick up the series. Yeah, well, I suppose we'll see. I mean, I love Last Starfighter. You've seen that film, haven't you?
I have indeed. Do you know that Last Starfighter has Will Wheaton in it?
Does it?
Yeah, it does. A very young Will Wheaton.
Which character was he?
I don't know. I think he was like a friend number 2 or something.
Oh, okay, okay. Because I was going to say, when you said it, first of all, I was thinking, is he the cool guy that turns up in the car? The sort of Rufus type
wasn't
character.
Driving. I think he was very young. If you imagine how young he was in Next Generation, and then when that was made. So
yeah, I watched it not long ago actually with my nephews, and I still love it. I think it's great. I'm going to watch it again. We'll see what the TV show's like, but it just shows there's more and more momentum with VR there.
Yes, it's quite interesting. I mean, one thing that I wanted to ask you, you're talking about kind of TV and the extra stuff. The Powers show that Sony were touting last E3, did that ever come to the UK? Because I know it's been shown in the US, but I don't think it ever came to the UK, did it?
Powers?
Yeah.
No, not that I'm aware of anyway. I've never heard of it.
It's interesting. No, it's interesting. Because, something like that would be ideal for Sony to buy the rights to it, distribute it, and have it on a PlayStation, with Morpheus. That would be a system seller, wouldn't it? And I just wondered if they were going to do that with other TV shows that they bought.
Yeah, well, I think, like these guys are saying, it's like a lot of things. You need somebody to get up and do it. And then if it becomes a success and it gets that demand, then it's just going to sort of avalanche from there. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Excellent stuff. Right, and I think probably on that note, it's a good time to wrap up. So that's about it for this episode. So as always, all that remains to say is a big thanks for listening to this The Lost Spark podcast. It's been a pleasure. As always, really enjoy talking to you. Again, if you want to catch up with us, we're on gamersoftheLostSpark.com. Don't forget to check out that Ryan McCaffrey interview that's up on the website. It's a fantastic read. You can also find us on Facebook at Gamers of the Lost Spark. We're on Twitter at Lost Spark, and now you can also find us on YouTube too. So Darren, where can we find you online?
Yeah, you can get me under the name Wypermator on PS4, Xbox One and Twitch, Dazagamer on YouTube, and at Daz Whittam on Twitter.
And me, I am Chessman on Xbox Live. I'm PS-Chessman on the PlayStation Network, and I'm Chessman UK on Twitter. So if you have any feedback, please send it to us. We have an email address, which is feedback@gamersoftheLostSpark.com. As always, you can keep an eye on our Twitter feed, where we'll be posting things that we're putting up on the website, such as a new episode or more of these interviews or articles. You can also subscribe to iTunes and have those podcasts delivered to you at the moment they are available. And also, if you're feeling generous, please leave us a review or ratings on iTunes. So that's about it. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks very much. Have a good week.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.